Today we're going to examine the future of Mirio after he intentionally took a quirk-destroying bullet to protect Eri. What a gentleman. The English voice actor for Lemillion should be hopping on my channel in the new year for a Q&A session, so if you have any questions for him at all, make sure you're subscribed and then leave your question in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's get into what the future holds for this particular character. Specifically, I'm going to lay out the 5 most likely scenarios in no particular order. Okay, so we saw earlier this season that Tamaki was hit with a prototype version of this quirk-destroying bullet, which destroyed his quirk for about 12 hours or so. After this, the Shie Hassaikai seemingly created the ultimate version of this bullet that could destroy quirks permanently. But hear me out here. What if in the same way that Tamaki's body was able to recover his quirk back, after a good night's sleep, what if the bullet that hit Mirio isn't actually permanent, but rather it just takes a super long time for the power to return? I mean, the Shie Hassaikai aren't exactly the world's greatest scientists. They're an organization consisting of drunks, street fighters, and talking plush toys. What if the drug that they believed would destroy quirks permanently only actually destroyed them for a long period of time, let's say about 5 years? Now, story-wise, this is probably the lamest possible way that Mirio could get his quirk back, but for me, it's entirely possible. So in short, if the Shie Hassaikai are wrong and their bullet is not permanently destroying quirks, then I guess Mirio's gonna wake up in like 5 years and just fall straight through the ground. So basically like this pick, but a more updated version. Overall, I'm gonna rate the possibility of this happening as a 6 out of 10. Now moving on to a more likely course of action, at number 2 on this list, we have the idea that Mirio does actually remain quirkless for the rest of his life. And as a big Mirio fan, I gotta say I would hate to see this happen, but if Mirio does remain quirkless, then all hope is not lost, my friends. During his fight with Overhaul, the big man himself said that there's more to this character than just his quirk. Mirio has the heart of a hero, and he wants to save 1 million people. As a quirkless guy, you might not save that many, but if he became like a police officer, for example, in much the same way that All Might's best friend is a police officer, then he can still have a real impact on people's lives. And by remaining quirkless, it would give greater meaning to his sacrifice. Like, he truly did give up his dream to save this one girl, something that only a true hero could do. I reckon this is a possible path for Mirio to follow, as he could still be useful and save people, either that or he gets a normal job, which in a world full of superpowers would be pretty sucky. Overall, I'd rate the possibility of this a 7 out of 10. It would definitely have the biggest emotional impact if he was to remain quirkless. Now, in 3rd place on this list, we have the possibility that Eri will rewind Mirio back into a state where his body still has his quirk. If you don't want to know any spoilers whatsoever, then pause this video and skip to the next item on this list. The timestamp that you should skip to is on the screen. But for those of you that don't really care or already know, Nightai foresaw that Mirio would become a great hero one day, and taking him at his word, the natural assumption to become a great hero is that you must have a quirk, right? And to me, the most logical way of this happening is by Eri doing it. This is because it would complete the circle of events. Mirio sacrificed his quirk to save Eri, and now Eri, having been saved and being able to master her quirk, is able to return the favor by giving him back what he lost to save her. We've seen in the manga that there's still not a lot known about Eri's quirk, so yeah, she does need time to train it properly before she can do something like this. So if it was to happen, I reckon it won't happen for about maybe, let's say 2 years. And that would possibly mean that when Mirio gets his quirk back, he can finish his studies alongside the current Class 1A, who would be final years at that time. Imagine that, Mirio studying alongside Class 1A currently. That would be content I would pay to see. But anyway, overall, I rate the possibility of Eri returning Mirio's quirk as a 9 out of 10. I do believe that this is the most likely course of action, especially in the manga when you see the relationship between Mirio and Eri, and obviously given everything that's happened, Eri feels a massive debt to him. So yeah, this is likely going to happen, but when it will happen, who knows? At 4th place, we have the idea that Mirio does become a great hero, but with one little stipulation. He doesn't get his quirk back. In the MCU, we have superheroes like Iron Man and Hawkeye who have no supernatural powers beyond their normal human bodies, but we've also seen characters like Spider-Man who, although they already have powers, they also have a lot of power that's given to them from the suit that they're wearing. So what if Mirio, as a quirkless person like Iron Man or Hawkeye, was able to get an awesome costume that would enable him to operate as a superhero in a world where he'd be one of the few quirkless people. And I reckon I know someone who'd design it for him too. A suit like that would definitely supplement the downsides of not having a quirk. For me personally, Mirio is my favorite character in My Hero Academia, and he has been for a while now. And in the manga, I feel like we haven't seen him for a long time, so hopefully in the future he does become a hero one way or another. But for now, I'm rating the likelihood of him becoming a super suit type hero a 5 out of 10. Logically speaking, heroes normally do have to have a quirk, and I've never heard of a single hero who operates without one. But just because there's no precedent for it doesn't mean it can't end up happening, so that's why I give it a 50-50 chance. And finally, I saved the most bonkers theory for last. What if in the future Mirio doesn't get his quirk back, but acquires someone else's quirk? If you've seen my video explaining All Might's backstory, you'll know that his name contains the kanji for 8, foreshadowing the fact that he would become the 8th user. By a similar token, his predecessor had the Japanese word for 7, referencing her being the 7th user. And Deku's name contains the kanji for a long time ago that makes the same sound as the kanji for 9, referencing that he is the 9th holder. Horikoshi is clearly using a scheme when naming the different users of One for All, at least the 3 that we know of. And that's my really long-winded way of saying that the To part of Mirio Togata can be read as 10, which possibly refers to the fact that he would succeed Deku and become the 10th user of One for All. That's of course what Sir Nightai wanted all along, but how likely is it to happen? Well, we know that Deku will be the #1 hero one day, but we have no context surrounding that statement. Maybe Deku's original quirk manifests and he passes One for All to Mirio or something crazy like that. I don't know exactly, but all I can tell you is that let's say Mirio was the 10th permanent holder. He could become a great hero like Nightai foresaw, and it would tie into the meaning behind his name. Though in all likelihood, this crackpot theory will never pan out. Unless? Nah, probably not. Overall, I'd give the likelihood of Mirio getting One for All a 3 out of 10. And that's going to do it for me today, guys. Those were the 5 most likely things to happen to Mirio going forward, with the #1 most likely thing being that Eri gives him his quirk back in the future. And the next most likely thing being that he remains quirkless for the rest of his life. So pretty contrasting there. I guess we'll have to see how it pans out. And like I said, I'll be doing a Q&A with Rico Fajardo, aka the voice actor for Lemillion, in early January, hopefully early January. But you know, he's a busy guy, so it might get rearranged, but January is the provisional date. So for when that happens, make sure you get your questions in, but you have to be subscribed. And be sure to check out my theory discussing why Bakugo was the 2nd user of One for All. It absolutely blew up, so I'd love for you to check it out if you haven't already. Peace out.